everyone for joining us to hear more about this really great trip to the Galapagos that's going to happen in August, and at the Galapagos, and also some birding in Ecuador. And Debbie's has a little presentation to kind of talk about the specifics of the trip, and also show some photographs of the places we're going, the birds we're going to see, and just kind of talk it through, just more informational session. We're hoping that we can get 8 people from Lahontan to go on this trip, which would make it a go for us. And then we can take up to 16 people. So we'll talk about that as it goes on. But it's a really special trip. Oftentimes people just go to the Galapagos and don't spend any time in Ecuador. So this has both. And I have to say, I've been to the Galapagos. And so when, we were putting this trip together and I got the name of the ship we're going to be on from Debbie, I looked it up and it wasn't on it wasn't listed. And then I looked up luxury yachts, and that's where it was. So it's a really amazing ship that we're on, which is will be super comfortable and just has everything that you could want and then some. So anyway, so thank you for joining us. And Debbie, if you want to take it over, that'd be great.
Okay, well, I think what I'm going to start off with is basically to introduce myself and introduce Holbrook Travel. We have a long history. Holbrook has been around for 50 years now. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary last year. And I have been around for 32 years, just about 32. In March, it'll be my 32nd anniversary with this company. And so happily, I am still working part-time and getting to travel a lot. And my personal history in the islands has been that I have been there 5 times. The first time I was there was when I was a kid. We sailed from California to Florida in our 38-foot sailboat, and we got to spend 2 months out in the Galapagos when I was 15. And that experience just totally changed my life. And, I never even thought that I would ever be doing anything like it again. But since then, I've been back for 4 times, and it is still just like my most favorite place in the world ever. I mean, I've been to 41 or 42 countries now, and it's still right at the top of the list. I've even been to Antarctica, and I would say it takes a close second to Galapagos just because of the incredible wildlife that is just so close. I just talked to a client of mine that returned just the past weekend, and he said, asking him about his favorite experience, he said, well, for me, it was like the sea lion coming up and looking me in the face, and then like going and grabbing a hold of my flippers and trying to play with me like I was another sea lion, And for me too, I remember snorkeling one time, and I just kind of went like this a little bit, and the sea lion starts swimming around there playing with me in the water. And I've been eye to eye with sea turtles there. It is really, really a special, special place. And, the birds there are so unique, not like nowhere else you could find them. And, I should mention our history of Holbrook. We are 50-year-old company, as I mentioned, and Mrs. Holbrook was one of the very first pioneers taking people to the Galapagos Islands. And she took a group of professors back in 1971, which was the year that I was there. And I always thought, I wonder if we actually met her. What she did is she chartered a retired naval vessel out of Guayaquil. Back then, they had to go by boat out there because there weren't commercial flights like there are right now. And so, I've always kind of wondered if we ever met her, out there. But so she was one of the pioneers of that. And, it's a conservation story that, that continues to live on. Okay. So this first slide right here, this is sort of the intro slide, but I wanted to talk about it because this is on the island of Española, which is a very special island that you're going to be visiting. This is where the waved albatrosses come in from the sea during certain times of the year. They come in April, and I heard just now that even now there was still a few juveniles left on the island, but most of them have already gone back out to sea. But because the waved albatrosses can't really fly like regular birds, like they can just flap their wings and take off, they have to use this runway. So this is the runway for them to come out. They do their little waddling out there and they walk out here and then they just take off and off they go out to sea to hunt for the day. So this is this is the Galapagos runway for albatrosses. So that is just a beautiful island. And one thing about this island too, well, there's more slides about it that I should mention. This is not the easiest of walking on this island. So um, so the islands are 600 miles offshore. You're basically going to fly into Quito here and spend an amazing 3 nights in the highlands and then fly out to the Galapagos. The flights are on like 737 jets. So they're, they have the regular luggage, 50 pounds, and you have, the carry on and your personal item, just like all regular flights do. Um, so it's definitely an easy way to get there. A lot better than getting in a boat and traveling 600 miles off there like we did. That's when we went on our trip. We wound up having to go down to Manta from Panama. We were leaving from there, and we sailed down here, and then had to sail out there. So it's like a 10-day trip by boat. So you get to fly out there in just a couple of hours. So this trip is based in the Eastern Islands, which is the oldest part of the archipelago. And out here, Isabella, there's on most Galapagos boats, they run two different itineraries. So they run an eastern route and then they run a western route. So the best one is the eastern route, in my opinion, because you get to go to Española and you go to, the older islands that have more diversity to them than out west. But the one bird that you don't get to see on this itinerary is the flightless cormorant. So they only occur out in Fernandina, Isabella area. So you would miss that one. So you're just going to have to go back on another trip. But it's a choice between the albatross and the flightless cormorant. So 14 days. The trip is a great value. I think, if you look at some of the competition out there, this is a really great price considering the fact that you're going to have time up in the highlands and also a full week in the islands, which a lot of people don't they don't do a cruise. They go and they spend time on the there's 4 places of human population on the islands. There's San Cristobal and Puerto Ayora, which is probably the biggest one. Floriana and and Isabella have humans living on them. So people have built hotels there and had it so that folks can come and stay at their places. And then what they do is like day trips out to see the different smaller islands. When you're on a boat like this, you're really immersed in it and you're out there basically every day. You wake up and you get off of the boat and go ashore on the islands. And when you're on a hotel, it's a totally different thing. You can talk to your guide and say, well, we want to be the first ones over there. So you can get on the shore at 6 a.m. If you want to be there at 6 a.m., that is possible. And for photographers, a lot of folks want to do that. This right here, this is the same place I just showed you this at the beginning slide. This is on Española. I wanted to mention that the trail here it's made out of lava. So you're stepping on rocks and you can kind of see this is a photographer who brought her walking sticks. It's definitely recommended. They do have sticks on the boat, but if you're used to using walking sticks to walk on treacherous terrain, totally recommended to bring them along. So let's see the next slide, just is showing some of the great birds you're going to see up in the highlands, which it's mind-blowing for tanagers and hummingbirds. This is like the only place that's comparable that I know of is Colombia, but Ecuador, the first time I went there and saw the incredible hummingbirds. It blew my mind. The feeders where I visited, there was like 60 or 70 hummingbirds just all buzzing around, just going crazy. It was so amazing. And of course, on the Galapagos Islands, you're going to see lots of endemic birds there and endemic wildlife. Like this is the land iguana, the marine iguana, which I don't think it's found anywhere else other than the Galapagos. The animals are super, super tame. So you're right there. You have to watch where you walk so you don't step on them because they can be like right in the path. Um, and of course, the tortoises are iconic. Um, so on the mainland, to begin with, you're going to be landing here in at the Quito airport and then staying in the city of Quembo, which is near the airport. That's kind of at a lower elevation. It's about 7,500 feet there. So I totally recommend doing a pre-night if you know, if you have any kind of altitude issues. Plus, the next morning you're going up to a very high elevation here at Yanacocha. It's 10,000 feet. So it does help to get there a day earlier. The other disadvantage is the flights generally come in the middle of the night. So, you could wind up not getting very much sleep that night, which would make it really, if you're like me, I get a headache at high altitude, but I know of medicine now that helps me from getting that headache, but it is definitely a great idea to come in a day early and have a chance to rest and get acclimated. So Yanacocha, very special reserve here that it was created. It's basically used to be the waterworks for Quito. I don't think that it is anymore, but they are protecting the black-breasted puff-leg hummingbird there, which is just about extinct. And of course, this picture is of the sword-billed hummingbird, which it's like, how did that bird even fly with that giant bill? You're staying at a great lodge called Sachatamia, and so then the next thing you'll do after you get to the lodge, you'll spend the night there, have some great food. Ecuadorian food is awesome. They have some of the best soups I've ever eaten in my life. I would say that the food is delicious and wholesome, and it's great for people that are vegetarians or vegan and or meat eaters too. But it's delicious food. So the next day, then you start off the day going to the bird blind at Sachatamia, which it's like the breakfast buffet for birds. They have a sheet that they put out and lights on it at night, so all of the insects collect, and in the morning, well, there are all the birds picking off all of those bugs. And so you're sitting in a blind right there, being able to see them pretty close range. That's probably maybe 10, 20 feet away from you. So that's pretty fun. And then you go to Mashpi Amagusa Reserve, which has to be one of the most incredible opportunities. I've loved doing photography, so really close-up views of amazing tanagers. Glistening green tanager is one of my favorites. He's just like a spectacular green color and beautiful, beautiful spot. And it's a sustainable. We do try to use a lot of local folks that are, doing sustainable tourism is basically what we try to utilize those people that have set up places to use ecotourism as a way to have their living and protect their land. Excuse me. And then the next day, going to another famous place. It's exactly that. They are Refugio Paz de las Aves. Basically, is run by Rodrigo Paz and his family, his brother and Angel Paz. I'm sorry, Angel and Rodrigo, they're brothers. They run this place where they've discovered that they can go and harvest earthworms out of the ground every morning. Rodrigo gets up and goes out and gets these worms, and then they call up the ant pittas. So they'll be out there calling Maria, and then here comes this amazing ant pitta. There's, I think, 5 or 6 different ones that are out there. They're all named, so they kind of call them up so that you can see them close up. And most of you guys know probably that ant pittas are very shy birds, but they have, they have been able to kind of make friends with these people. And they actually, their family was trying to sell the land. I think in the last couple of years, they were able to raise enough money to keep, to keep the refuge going. Excuse me. Uh, in the afternoon, it looks like you'll be going to the El Pahuma Orchid Reserve as well. And then the next day is going to a really interesting butterfly garden where you're going to learn about how, the life cycle of butterflies, and they have bunches of butterflies that are right there. This is a picture that I took of one of our participants, and they're just landing on you, and it's one of those kind of experiences you're just like, wow, I can't even believe all these butterflies. And then the chocolate tour is pretty fun too, and delicious as well. So that's your Highlands experience. You can then, stop at the Middle of the World Monument, which is, it's kind of touristic, but you are in the middle of the world, and you get to balance the egg on the on the nail and that sort of thing at that place. So then you're going to go back to the hotel in Rincon de Puembo, the same place you were when you came in, and the next morning then board your flight to fly out to the islands. And this is the boat. It's the Tip Top 4, and as Cass said, it's not, I mean, it's not super duper duper luxurious, but it is a top class boat. It's not the tourist class. There are some that are, I wouldn't put anybody on. These are very comfortable and very nice food, and very nice accommodations. Each of the rooms has a private bath, and they're not huge cabins, but they're a comfortable size. Every day there's a snorkeling experience. They do have kayaks that you can take out. So the way the day runs, usually you wake up at the anchorage, you go ashore, you do a walk on the island and do an afternoon snorkel, or vice versa. They could switch it around. Sometimes you snorkel off the beach. They basically look up, they decide from the group, you get to decide if you're comfortable snorkeling in deep water, which is where, a lot of the fish, schools of fish and the sea lions are. That's generally, you go off of the panga, which they call these, the rubber boats, the Zodiacs here, they call them pangas. And you basically, they put a ladder on here so that you can climb in and out of the boat. And the last time I was there, in January, a couple of years ago, we were out snorkeling, and our guide said, get in the boat, come on, we gotta go, look, there's dolphins out there. And we looked out, there's 500 dolphins, all this huge pod of dolphins out there. And so we go zooming out there, and our guide says, well, you want to get in the water? And I'm like, yes, of course. So we were able to get down in the water and hear all the dolphins like talking to each other, and it was an amazing experience. And the rest of our group, they didn't really understand what was happening until all of a sudden, you see all these other pangas zooming out there to try to get with the dolphins, which everyone got to see them and be with them. But, they get scared off, when there's people around. They're not as tame as the rest of the wildlife, but there's always something amazing going on in the ocean, whether it's seeing orcas or seeing other kinds of whales. It is just, and this visibility to water there too. It's like 60-foot visibility. Every time I go back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot how clear this amazing water is. So it is definitely, you got to snorkel, but you can opt out of activities, of course. Every night they do have a briefing about what's going to happen the next day. All right, why aren't you changing? You guys still there? Oh, there it goes. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. I must have been doing something wrong. Okay, so these are just the islands you'll be visiting. As I said, Española, well, North Timor is going to be your first. You get there, get on the boat, and in the afternoon you'll visit North Timor, and then the next day you'll wake up here at Española, get to see the waved albatrosses. They will be in full swing doing their mating and courting at that time. Um, so two spots on Espanola, and then the next day you'll be heading over to San Cristobal, which is where the iconic Kicker Rock is located by San Cristobal. So you'll get a chance to see that as well while you're cruising around the island. And then the next day you're going to head over. This map is not a very good map, unfortunately. I can't. I'm not happy with it, but it doesn't really. I wish it were better, but it isn't. And there it is. But as I said, you're traveling usually at night, and then you wake up at the islands. So then on the 11th, you're going to be on Santa Cruz, which is where you can go. You'll be going up to the highlands, up to the forests, and seeing the giant tortoises that are up there. And there's lava tunnels there to visit. So when the islands were formed, a lot of the a lot of times these lava tubes are created and they're underground. So when the lava was flowing through them, they create like a tube or a tunnel that once the lava gets out into the sea, it leaves a vacancy. So you like go down steps and go inside the lava tunnel, which is very fun. Fun experience to do. And it's actually some people have actually lived down in those tunnels on the islands over the years. So you're going to change for me? Yes, you are. So we're almost done with the cruise now. Unfortunately, just a few more days left here, visiting these Santa Fe Island and South Plaza. South Plaza is where you can see the tropic birds off of the cliffs there. They're pretty, they nest there. And also you'll see lava gulls and a lot of more of the endemic cliff nesting species are located on this island, as well as the marine iguana. Marine iguanas are pretty much almost everywhere, but land iguanas are not everywhere. On this particular island on South Plaza, the those giant, well, they're giant iguanas. They're really huge. The land iguanas are right there because the opuntia forest is there. The opuntia cactus have a flower on them that is very appetizing to these iguanas. So they kind of sit there and wait for the flowers to fall off so that they can eat them. And I remember when I was a kid, we used to pick them off and then feed them to the iguanas. We did lots of bad things because that was bad before, before they had all the rules they have in place now. You could never do that now. But back then, yeah, we kind of did everything. Bartolome is where the iconic Pinnacle Rock is located. Rabida, it boasts having Flamingo Lagoon there that you'll get a chance to see. And the Chinese Hat is a interesting island that looks just like a Chinese hat. It's sombrero chino. So interesting island to visit as well. And then heading back to Santa Cruz Island and then to the airport on Baltra and then back over to the mainland on the flight. So there's just a little array of pictures here. This is a sample picture of the cabins. They do have cabins that have matrimonial beds or a double bed in them. Their food is just delicious. That's a lot of great seafood. The staff on these boats are just phenomenal. They are doing the best to serve everyone on board. This is another view of the cabin. Each of them have a private bath. It has a shower and a toilet, and it's not in the same room. I mean, it's basically separated, but it's still small. It's not huge, but you will definitely have a hot shower and enjoy. They have air conditioning as well, even though it's a very temperate place. It's on the equator, but when you go on the islands, it can be kind of warm during the day, but as soon as you get back by that water, the water temperature is like in the 70s. And, at this time of year in the summertime when you're going, which is my favorite time, the water temperature is a little bit cooler. There's three currents that come in into the islands that are cold water currents. And that's what brings all of the nutrients for for all of the sea life that's there. So it's very wonderful time of year to go. So I think you guys will enjoy that a lot. This view right here, this is from the top. Oh, I don't know if I can get it there. This one is at the Pinnacle Rock on Bartolome Island. So you can climb up here and get a great vista of the islands and the surrounding sea there. It's a beautiful place. You good chances possibly to see the penguin here also. Galapagos penguins have been sort of migrating a little bit more to the east. They used to only be seen out on the Western Islands, but now they can be seen over where in the islands that you will be visiting. Of course, Sally Lightfoot crabs, beautiful, fantastic, gorgeous crabs that are like all over the place. They're really interesting to watch. And then this is one of those land iguanas I was telling you about that eats the flowers. Here is, I think this is your lodging at Sachitamia. So it's, very typical, comfortable, clean, not fancy, but beautiful to be up in the cloud forest. So now here's the particulars. This is a really good value trip. If you look at some of the trips online, usually they're around $10,000 for just the cruise. You're not going to have, the time over in the Highlands like you have birding with an expert guide. So it's like $10,000 plus they charge you the cost to fly out to the islands. So this is a really good price actually compared to many of the possibilities out there. The one thing is we do have a close deadline. March 6th is our deadline for signing up and making your deposit, and then the final payment will be due in April 30th. So like I said, it includes everything. You don't have to worry about meals or anything like that. It's all included, and including your flights out to the islands. And then that is about it. So if you want to sign up, you go right to this link right here. This is it's still held, it's privately showing on our website. So that means you have to use this link to find it. You can't go to holbrooktravel.com and find it because it's not in the list, because we wanted to invite just Lahontan members to join. And before opening to public, if we decide to open up to the public, then it would show up on our website. But right now it is private. So you have to use this link to get to the trip. And then what will happen when you click to that link, you'll get on the page that the full itinerary is there, and all the information. There's resources and activity. There's some videos and stuff that can tell you how you need to have the ability to get in and out of those zodiacs. Sometimes you're going to land on the beach and have to be able to swing your legs over the side to be able to get out into knee-deep water and back in again. So you have to be a little bit agile. You have to be able to climb up the ladder to get back onto the boat too. So there is some ability of mobility. You do have to be able to get around a little bit, but it's not super duper strenuous, but it's a little strenuous. So saying that it's not for everyone. It's for most, and I would definitely recommend going now because in my experience, and I have a school group that I've worked with since 2004 was their first trip, and I have seen the prices every single year going up like 5%, all these years. And I look back at the prices back then and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe how cheap it was back then. But because of supply and demand, every single year it goes higher and higher and higher. And of course, it costs them more. Everything that in the islands has to be brought out there by plane, and then basically the boats, all their supplies, everything, all the cost of everything has just gone up everywhere, just like everywhere else in the world. So I encourage people to go now, and if you've been before, go again. It's definitely a place that you can see so many different things than you saw on your first trip. So, do we have any questions?
One question from the chat. Lori is asking, is snorkeling equipment provided on the boat? And do we wear rubber boots on the land on the Galapagos, and are they provided?
Thank you, Diane. Yes, on the boat, the snorkeling equipment is, so your mask and snorkel and fins is. A wetsuit is strongly recommended personally. Even when I was there as a kid, we didn't snorkel that much because it was chilly. You know, the water's 70, 72 degrees, which doesn't sound that cold, but it is cold. I mean, when you're in it, you can get chilled. So we recommend having getting at least a shorty wetsuit. So that can be rented. I think it's $45 for the week, something like that. It's pretty reasonable. So before we go, we ask everybody that we send out the wetsuit sizes, and that we basically order the suits to be available for you on the boat. And you pay the boat for that. So that's not something we collect the money for. As far as at Sachatamia, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember seeing boots there. Some of the lodges do have boots in Ecuador, but I don't remember seeing that at Sachatamia. I would definitely recommend bringing some kind of waterproof shoes, because it can be, especially in the mornings, even dew fall can get your shoes wet. And I would bring some. I have I call them my clodhoppers. I have a pair of waterproof. They're not really hiking shoes, but they're not. They're kind of heavier, and they're not real hiking boots, but they are going to protect my feet from getting wet. So, did that answer the question?
I have a question about, so the tour starts August 4th, but you recommend getting there a day earlier. So do you pick us if we got there a day earlier? Where would we stay? Can we stay at that lodge?
Yes, I would recommend staying at the same hotel.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to, but I would recommend that. Let me just see what the additional night is. It's pretty reasonable. She doesn't have it in here. Darn it. I think it's like $130 or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like at 125, something like you say. Yeah, and it's really close to the airport, so it's convenient. It's very nice.
Yeah, and we pick you up. I mean, whether you come in, on the 3rd or you come in on the 2nd, your transfer from the airport, all that stuff. Like I said, everything's included. As long as you're, using the same hotel, we definitely will make sure that we get you. You don't have to worry about taking a taxi or anything.
The trip actually starts on the 3rd, then most people would be arriving on the 3rd. But we probably want to arrive, a day early.
I would suggest that, because just getting acclimated, because just like I said, I was just talking to one of my leaders that just came back this week, and he was saying that some of the people in his trip didn't get there till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, because their flights out of the States had gotten delayed. They were supposed to come in at like midnight, and they still didn't get to, they got in very late, and then they had to turn right around and head out the next morning to go to their next, go to the cloud forest. And I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody wants to do that. So I think I'm going to make it a standard thing that we put that on all of our trips at that first day, just to recommend that, it really makes you're much more refreshed. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And hope to see you going on this trip.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.